and welcome to The Cosmic Nomad. I'm your host, Bailey Rushlow, and this is a space for the curious and the heart-led, where we explore the human experience through travel, nature, spirituality, and real-life transformation through beautiful conversations. As I discover my way of living what I call an inspired life, I share the practices, stories, and perspectives that have helped guide me back to myself. In this episode, I'm sharing the story of how creativity has carried me from childhood treehouses to recording music in the back of my closet and into the work that I do today. We'll talk about what creativity really is, how to connect with it, and simple ways to let it flow through you again, even if you feel unsure where to start. You're in the right place. Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Cosmic Nomad. This is episode 6. We've been on such a fun journey so far. I feel like we are just on this spiral of information, stories, practices, journeys, and I'm guiding you deeper into getting to know me on a personal level, but also because this is all just a big reflection and a mirror. I hope you're getting to know yourself a little bit better too. So I just want to encourage you to, as always, get cozy, get comfy, get moving, whatever feels aligned with you in this moment, to really soak in these words. And also, anything that I share that resonates with you, awesome. Take it for yourself. Anything that does not resonate with you, all good. Leave it at the door, right? Take it or leave it. That's very much how I like to approach life and approach other people's teachings and perspectives. And nothing is a one-size-fits-all thing, right? You have to take and leave what serves you and what feels aligned with you in today's moment. So that said, let's get into it. They say that in ancient times, when someone came to the village healer feeling lost, heavy, or unwell, they weren't asked, what are your symptoms? They were asked something like, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did you stop finding comfort in the silence? Because in these cultures, illness wasn't just a physical thing. It was soul deep. It was a disconnection from what made life worth living. It was a forgetting of the rituals that kept us human. And, maybe that's all still true. Maybe we aren't broken. Maybe we are just starved of the things that make us feel alive, like our joy, our expression, our passion, our art, our stillness, our freedom. So I want this episode to be a gentle invitation back into those places, back to your rhythm, your voice, your stories, because creativity is not just talent. It's not about that at all. It is a birthright. To me, creativity is how the soul breathes. And sure, talent has always existed. There's always been people who have been more prone to things like, singing or dancing or art of some capacity, right? Like there's always been people who've been really, truly gifted in certain areas. But when you learn about specifically indigenous cultures around the world, everyone is dancing, everyone is singing, not just the person who's good at it. It's a collective experience of movement, voice, vibration, frequency, everyone grieving together, everyone participating in joy and celebration together. Everyone tripping on psychedelics together. There was no, oh, this is me and my business. This is me and my whatever talent. This is not me being judged on a talent show, for my gifts. This is all of us together. And our individual frequencies blending to create a symphony of humans in balance. and humans expressing themselves. And when we do not express ourselves, so often we are in the act of shoving things down internally, which creates dis-ease in the body. It creates inflammation in the body. Inflammation is the root of all disease. So literally by learning how to express ourselves creatively and through creative outlets and avenues and hobbies and all kinds of things, we are taking care of our physical well-being and emotional state. According to Adobe's State of Create study, only 41% of people around the world say they consider themselves creative. That's heartbreaking to me because creativity isn't just some rare gift. It's like the language that the soul speaks. And when we stop using it, we lose something vital, you know? NASA actually did a study where they tested 1,600 kids, all around 4 to 5 years old, to measure their creative genius. And get this, 98% of the kids scored at genius level creativity. These are 1,600 random children, okay? 98% of them tested genius level creativity. That's incredible. As they followed the same kids over the years, the number dropped drastically. By the time the kids were 10, the number went down to 30%. By age 15, only 12%. And in adults, 2%. It's not that they weren't creative. It's that they had been taught not to be. The systems that we grow up in, they reward conformity, not imagination. They want memorization over curiosity. But that genius, that creative spark, it's still in us. It's waiting to be remembered. So let's go through some ways we can remember our creativity and incorporate it into our daily lives, because we all have this genius quality in our connection to creativity. And I think this is going to be important for our physical health, our emotional health, the health of our families, the health of our friends. Like, I want to share this with everyone. So if this impacts you, please send it to someone that you know and love who is either really tapped into their creativity or not as tapped in and wants to be, or feels like they're blocked. We're not actually blocked. We just have a lot of conditioning to undo and a lot of beliefs to look at. And we've talked about that already in previous episodes, patterns and beliefs and whatnot, but let's specifically focus on creativity and how to connect to it again, because it really is our first language, and it's not something forgotten. It's just something that we have to work a little bit harder to remember, okay? So when I think of creativity, I'm immediately taken back to being a child. And I'm thinking of making bows and arrows out of sticks and my treehouse, and drawing little people and dresses and flowers and animals. I think of dancing wildly without anyone watching. I think of singing in my room and imagining I was on stage somewhere on Broadway. I think of creating worlds in solitude, just imaginary friends and imaginary stories, and playing with dolls. And I think of working with my hands and creating projects that made me smile, like vision boards and cutting things out. I always had scissors with me. I was always cutting things out and pasting them onto stuff and making collages. And I remember the inside of my closet door was just full of pictures and posters and all kinds of things that made me smile. And I always had little bowls or boxes, little jewelry boxes, stuff like that, full of things I've collected from nature, like acorns and sticks, rocks, crystals, little pine cones, flowers, dried flowers. This is me at my truest self. So I ask you the question, what did you love doing when you were a kid? The inner artist already existed in you before anyone told you who you were supposed to be. That version of you still exists. We just have to connect with it. So what did you do as a kid? What made you smile? What made you laugh? Because there's roots there, So ask yourself, what did I love doing when I was little? Maybe you can even pause here and make a note on your phone. Come back in a second. As my creative evolution continued through the years, I got into jewelry making and collecting antique books and stamps. I had a very extensive stamp collection. I thrifted a lot of records from the record store. And I discovered things like theater and public speaking and being in musicals. And I remember one year for Christmas, I got a little silver tape recorder. It had black buttons on it, and you put little tapes in it and record things, and then you listen back to them. And I remember I have one friend that I used to make a talk show with. We literally we had our own talk show, just the two of us. We had the best time coming up with people who would call into the talk show and creating different characters for them. That was very fun. But also, I got to record my voice for the first time and hear what I sounded like on audio. And I was so fascinated by it. I knew I wanted to be able to add harmonies to it and layer sounds and make a song, That was just, that was so cool. The idea of being able to make my own song. Eventually, I got my dad's old Mac computer. And I think one of the only things that really worked on it still was GarageBand. And then I got really into figuring out how to layer tracks and how to make songs and make sounds, what sounds good, what doesn't, how do you record stuff? And I was so fascinated by this. And I started watching YouTube videos about how people were building little home studios or creating very simple places to record in their own home. And I decided to turn my little closet into a recording studio. And that was when I was 19 years old. And I'm 29 now. So 10 years ago, this dream really started blossoming. And today it's not a dream, it's a reality. And people listen to the music that I made in my closet still, all these years later. And it's beautiful to me to see that evolution of my creativity, that I didn't give up on it. I really stuck with it. I believed in myself. And that is just a reflection to you of what's possible. And it's really cool for me now, understanding my neurodivergence a lot more than I used to, because now I have the languaging for it. Looking back at my childhood and seeing how all of those things were like hyperfixations for me. They became places where I could pour my soul into, my little collections and things that I knew all kinds of stuff about and things that lit me up and I could talk about it. And that's another key into your creativity, is what do you light up when you talk about? What do you feel like, if I don't share this, I'm going to implode? I have to talk about how much this excites me. I have to talk about how passionate about this thing I feel. And that could be so many different things. What is it for you? What are your hyperfixations? Because they might just be the doorway into your magic. And doing things just for the joy of it, not for the likes, not for the money, helps keep your channel clear. Your direct connection to divinity or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that is like this spark of inspiration, whatever the name is that you resonate with, when you feel that, it's like a call from another world. That's what it feels like for me. It's like, I want to try that. I want to do that. That makes me excited. What if I try it? And not sharing it for likes or for money, just for me, just for the damn joy of doing it. I feel my most lit up and alive when I'm doing something that excites me and brings me joy. And actually, when we do this, something powerful happens in the brain. Studies actually show that this state of consciousness, when you're connecting with awe and joy and deep presence and creativity, it actually quiets the part of the mind responsible for overthinking, for self-doubt and mental chatter. You know, that voice that lives in your brain that is just chattering. Neuroscientists actually call it the default mode network. It's the area of the mind that is active when we're ruminating, worrying, or lost in thought. But when we enter a state of flow through things like painting, dancing, singing, even watching a beautiful sunset or a waterfall or something that takes your breath away, we move out of the state of mental chatter and into deep presence, into aliveness, into the now moment. And that's the magic. Like, creativity isn't just about making art. It's a biological way back to ourselves. I mean, if that doesn't make you want to go like do something hella creative right now, I don't know what to tell you, because for me, that makes me so excited. And it makes me think about the way that I was as a child and how I have done my best to stay connected to her, even through it all. And there was a very deep and sometimes very dark feeling period of my life where my home life was feeling unstable. There was a lot of change going on with my parents, with my siblings, with my friends. I was trying so hard to figure out who I was, why I was, what was going on, why are we human, what are we here for? Like, it was one of my first kind of awakenings, I guess, and prior to the one that I had where I like left the country and like started a new life. Okay, prior to that one. And my health was starting to go down the drain. I was very sad. I was very frustrated with my body and why it was seemed to be coming against me. Well, I wasn't listening to it and I didn't really know how. So I'm not even surprised at this point that it was, but in that moment I was confused. And really, I can honestly say that my music and my creative journey, it saved me. It became like a spiritual practice. It became something that I could get lost in. It became something that I would sit alone late at night and absolutely lose track of time within. It would be 3 a.m. and I would look at the clock like, oh my God, it's 3 a.m. I have to go to bed. But I wasn't even tired because I was so turned on spiritually, mentally, creatively by what I was doing. I remember one specific memory that was a turning point for me. I went to move my recording stuff from the downstairs closet where I was typically recording music. And I brought everything upstairs to the attic because it was fairly quiet, insulated. The sound was pretty good up there and no one would bother me. And I couldn't hear all the pitter patter of feet running down the hallway from my siblings who shared the room next to me. And it's funny because I would probably love to hear that now. But at the time, it was very annoying. And I would always have to stop recording and go back and start again. So I'm up in the attic, and it was winter and it was getting very cold. And there was a point where I was working on these harmonies and I was so lost in creating this song. I mean, it was multi-layered, multifaceted, multi-parts. It was so poetic and I felt so connected to myself doing it that I eventually noticed I was breathing fog. It was so cold that fog was coming out of my mouth. And I realized my hands were so cold I could hardly type on my, my computer. And I mean, if it had been a little colder, I probably would have had frost on my eyelashes and around my nose. But that was a moment for me because I realized it is early, early hours in the morning. And my hands are nearly frostbitten. I'm breathing fog in an insulated attic. And I couldn't be more happy. It makes me emotional thinking about it, actually, because the memories is so visceral. I can taste it. And it was a turning point for me in recognizing that this was not just a hobby. Making music, singing, playing with frequencies. This was like a soul mission, like a true calling that made me feel so connected to myself. And in many ways, it saved me. It brought me to life. It gave me something to wake up and look forward to every day. And I will forever be grateful for that. And to me, that's such a standard of like, if something doesn't light you up like that, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, I like to ask people questions when I meet them, and typical questions for most people are like, so what do you do? And what's your job? And, you know, I hate those questions. And I love to ask things like, what did you do as a kid? Like literally just people that I've just met, I will ask them questions like, so how do you like to spend your time? Is one of my favorites. Write that down if you ever need a good opening line for someone. I swear, I think 90% of the people I ask that question to never say their job. Even if their job is what they spend 90% of their life doing, they never say it. They're like, that's a good question. What do I like to do? Well, you know, I love going fishing. It makes me feel whatever, happy, content, connected, blessed. I really love paddleboarding at sunrise. I love camping. I love making jewelry. I love collecting sea glass to make, I don't know, whatever. I have heard some insane things that people love doing, and I love it because it's so out of the box. It's so original. It's so them. I have met people that have said their job when they really, truly love their job. But the average person, I don't think really truly loves their job. I think it's important to see creativity as not something that you have or don't have, but as something that you are. Creativity it's a spiritual practice, right? It flows through you when you let go of control of how things should be. Creativity is how you feel connected to the universe. And a great way to start, if you're thinking, okay, this is all great and I love this, but where do I even begin? I have not done anything creative in a long time. Your homework is to set a 10-minute timer and to create something terrible. I mean it. Doesn't have to be terrible. Like you don't have to intentionally make it terrible, but create something bad. Create something that you're not going to share with your friends. Just create something. Ed Sheeran tells this story about how with songwriting, you have to actually turn on the tap, right? Just like you would on the sink or the shower to get to the hot water, when you turn it on, it doesn't just pour out hot water immediately. You got to get through the cold water first, right? Then you get to the hot water. Start slow. Start with something maybe you're already kind of good at, and you can just carry on from there. Or start with something that you don't know the first thing about. Literally, I picked up watercolors the other day. I haven't touched watercolor in so many years. I tried to paint a mushroom, and it looks like a puddle on paper that got smudged. Okay, it's not good. But you know what I did? I did it again. I tried again a second time, and it looked a lot better than the first time I did it. I could have just tried and been like, nah, this is terrible. I'm never doing that again. That made me feel like I'm not a good artist. No, it made me just feel like I need more practice. It made me feel like I need to spend a little more time getting to know the paints, getting to see what their language is, as opposed to just saying, well, I'm not good at this, therefore I'm not going to do it. That is the consumerism and the capitalism and the freaking conditioning of our world speaking. That's not actually me, right? And I may not be like, Monet or something when it comes to paints, but I'm going to be me when it comes to paints, and that's going to be awesome. I'm glad that Monet was Monet. I'm glad Van Gogh was Van Gogh. I'm glad Beethoven was Beethoven. I'm glad that you are you. We're all bringing a different frequency to this planet. When woven together, it creates a symphony of collaboration. It's beautiful. I quoted this way back in the day, episode 1, I think. You are the universe experiencing itself. Why are you holding the universe back from experiencing itself? By not picking up the paints because you might not be good enough? Why are you holding back the universe from experiencing itself by not recording a podcast episode because you want to? Or singing into that microphone, or making that incredible dinner that you really wanted to try that one recipe, but you're not sure if you can do it? You can do it. You can do it. You're just not doing it. It's not about forcing. It's about listening to yourself. What calls you? And this is the last thing that I want to say is make a list called What Lights Me Up, okay? And on that list, I want you to write down what makes me lose track of time. What's something I have always wanted to try just for me? Just for me. What would I create if no one ever saw it? Curiosity is the entry point to knowing yourself. It's not about talent. It's not about talent. It is about cultivating yourself and cultivating who you are and the way you play in this world. Your creativity doesn't need to impress anybody. Tell your inner child that. Really tell them. Give yourself the permission to start small and to make a mess and to make it your own. And if anyone has anything to say about it, you can tell them that this is your practice of coming home to yourself and to your inner child, advocating for her, for him, for them. That this is your practice of self-liberation. If your inner critic or an outer critic, I don't know, friend, family member, partner, whoever, says something to you or you to yourself, like, you're not even that good at painting, I want you to respond with something that's reframed with power, but also with softness. So someone says, you're not even that good at painting. I'm not creating for approval. I'm creating for freedom. Someone says, what are you even going to do with that? No one's going to buy that. I don't have to monetize every joy. Some things are sacred. Someone says, what a waste of time. You could be doing something productive right now instead. If it brings me peace, it's not a waste. You used to be better at that. You're not so good anymore. I'm not here to be better. I'm here to be real. Why are you spending so much time on that? Because it's how I come back to myself. Well, that's kind of weird. Maybe, but it's mine, and that's enough. Will you never be a real artist? Well, creativity is actually our birthright. I don't need permission from you or anyone to just be me, right? Not everyone is going to understand what lights you up, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're brave. It means that you're out there connecting to yourself, to nature, to the things that make you feel alive. And you know what? I love asking myself this. What's the alternative? Okay? What's the alternative? The alternative to doing things that light me up and make me feel alive is I numb myself. I live on autopilot. I don't collaborate with the universe. I mute my intuition. I shove my little inner child's voice back into the dark shadows of my heart and refuse to listen to them. I live according to everyone else's expectations of me because that's how I keep the peace. That's your alternative. Living a lukewarm, mediocre, 100 years, calling it a day. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a waste of the magic that you are here to bring forth, to carry forward with you into this world that is so sad. It's so disconnected. It's so tragic to the point where we look at people who are embodying their creativity and are not afraid to fail, are not afraid to mess up, and we judge them for it. How dare they step outside the box? How dare they shine so bright? How dare they do something that doesn't look good and post about it? How dare they release songs and podcasts and travel and all the privilege that they have to do all of this and and we turn into a boomer voice as we judge others for showing up in a way that we don't think we're allowed to. We need to change some things in this world. And we can't change all of it, not all at once at least, and not all alone. But we can collectively shift a lot of stuff. And we start by connecting to our own joy and letting that flow through us in a creative process. What does that look like for you? Maybe it's something you do all the time and you're just like, yeah, Bailey, totally. I feel all of this. Maybe this is so new for you. You're like, holy shit, I don't know about this. I'm going to be laughed at. I'm going to be judged. That's okay. We talked about this in episode 1. The places that you're afraid of being judged are often the places that you are judging yourself. So this is not coming at you. This is an invitation. Anything I ever say is an invitation. If it triggers you, that tells you somewhere that you can open up a little place in your heart for and ask. Be like, why does that make me feel triggered? Why does that make me feel like I can't show up in the same way? Why does that make me feel blank? And let yourself sit with that question. Because for most of us, we were born and connected with our creativity in such a profound way. You look back at yourself as a kid, I swear you're going to see it. You're going to see the magic. You're going to see the magic and you're going to be reminded. Maybe you'll even cry a little. I don't know. If you need to ask someone, if you have parents still around, you have old photographs, look around and see what was the spark. Even if you had a very difficult childhood, even if you had a childhood that you don't remember a lot of, see what there is internally today that lights you up. If connecting with your inner child is an impossible task right now, what lights you up in today's moment? Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's not a traditional creative thing like painting, okay? Maybe it's gardening, arranging plants, right? Maybe it's curating a space like decorating, choosing textures and lights and colors. Maybe it's making playlists. I used to love making playlists, creating a whole vibe, telling a story through music, right? Maybe it's thrifting. Maybe it's collecting things. Maybe it's writing letters. Emotional connection that becomes a form of storytelling, right? Maybe it's making care packages for your friends and sending them across the world. Maybe it's building things. I love building things. Maybe it's movement, like dancing, walking on a new path through the forest. Maybe it's dreaming up ideas with visions and community projects and business plans or voice memos to yourself full of ideas. Maybe it's journaling. Creativity isn't just about painting or playing an instrument. I know I've talked a lot about music and stuff in this because it's so close to my heart, but if there's anything that brings you life, anything that lets your soul come through your hands, creating something visual, creating something auditory, something that you feel, something that you experience, it's all creativity. It does not just have to be one thing. And if you think it does, then maybe that's another invitation to expand your thinking a little bit, expand your mind around this topic and see what it has to show you. As we wrap up, I just want to bring us back to that NASA study from the beginning. The 1,600 kids around 4 to 5 years old, and how 98% of them tested as creative geniuses. They weren't trying to be brilliant. They were being themselves. Curious, playful, expressive. And then year after year, the world taught them how to color inside the lines. And only 2% of them believed in their genius by adulthood. But that genius, that creative fire, it's not gone. It is buried under expectations and fear and shoulds and shouldn'ts and the way that you should act in society and things that will make you money. And this episode is your invitation to remember to pick back up the paintbrush or sing in the shower or write that messy ass poem, right? It is to create, not because it's perfect, but because it's you. Because your joy and your self-expression and your creativity are medicine to this planet. And they're needed. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today, for listening, for sharing this space. And if today's episode spoke to something in you, please feel free to share it with a friend who you think would also resonate, and or leave a review. It helps more than you know. I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode, and until then, open heart, open mind,